Hello everybody, this is Carl, and today I'm going to show you how to run the ChIP-seq pipeline on Truwl. And today I'm just going to rerun an experiment that was done by the ENCODE project. And this is the one. Here's its accession number. You can read a little bit about it down here. And what we're going to care about a lot is the file details. So this says that here's the actual sequencing reads that are used in this experiment. So what I'm going to do is go right over here to Truwl. I am going to go to Workflows, and I'm going to click on ENCODE ChIP-seq Pipeline 2, and that is associated with Jin Lee's account, who is the author of this workflow. So if I click on that, it gives me a description. It links to the GitHub repository, so I can see that, yes, this is in fact the one that's published on GitHub, and it has all sorts of instructions on how to run this on your own HPC or on the cloud. But you got to do a lot of your own setup. And we're going to skip a lot of that just by running on Truwl. So really the power of Truwl is being able to look at someone else's experiment and then just be able to fork it and change what you need to and run it on your own. Here's a couple of jobs that have been run before here. These are a couple of the example data sets that are actually same ones that are put up on the GitHub repository. I'm going to click on this one, which is a rerun of some ENCODE data. And I'm going to hit run it. And what this is going to show me is all the parameters that were used in this experiment. But I am going to go up here and hit fork. And I'm going to rerun that analysis, but swap out the data. So I can do it on a new experiment. So this is the name of the previous one. I'm going to change that because in this case, you go over this other tab. Just going to grab that and do that. And I can change out the description here too. First, I'll grab this URL. See experimental details here so someone can find their way back to the ENCODE portal and actually read about it there. That one was that. So let's see. We'll grab the description from here. Someone can click on it and go back to that page and get the details anyway, but sometimes it's nice to have them right here as well. And I'm happy with that. That's a good enough name for that workflow done. Now what I can do is go in and start changing these parameters. So this first tab here just has some metadata. And I think I'll just, looks like that one, just put in the experiment number here. So I'll grab that and hit edit. Hit that. I kind of put this in the description of the run too, but it's nice to put it right here as well. And I'll grab this again. And like so. Okay, and if you're notice what you do usually if you're going to run this on your own system is you'd have to generate this inputs.json file. What this input editor is doing is actually build one of these up behind the scenes, and it's on my screen here. It's showing actually building up this file. So the next thing we're going to need to put in is the reference genome parameters. So since this one's really similar, the references aren't going to change. And there's two ways to actually do this. And if you hover over the inputs, it actually gives you some pop-up help here. So one way to do it is to put in a TSV file, tab separated values. So you kind of specify all the reference inputs in a single file. And if you do that, you don't need to go through and do these each individually. And I grabbed an example of that the ENCODE project uses. So it looks like this. So you have a reference FASTA and it gives a URI and so forth. But for this case, and in this instance I grabbed, I just specify these each individually. And they are going to be, you can hover over these and see what each one is for. In this case, I'm going to leave those all the same. Since I'm running a new experiment with just different data, this is where I need to swap it out, the input genomic data. So if I go back over here and I scroll down, I go to File Details, I can right click on these download links, and I don't need to download these. What I just need to do is copy the link address. So I can go over here, I can edit this, clear it out, put it in. Our system hasn't seen this file before, so when I put this in for the first time, it can ask for a description, documentation link. So this is a URI. This is where the file is located. You can give it a documentation link if you want. So in this case, I may actually just click on this and say, hey, if you want to know about this file, take a look right there. That's the one. And since I did that, I'm not going to bother putting in a description. Say OK, done rather, and say OK. I'm always worried about losing my work, but so I'm going to hit save for later, just to make sure, but I'm pretty confident I'm good anyway. Now for the next one, I'm going to clear that one out, grab the next, read file, you can just right click, copy link address, go on over here, paste it in, and I need to add this one too. So we'll be good today and help the next person out. So next time someone uses this file, the system will know about it and all this information will already be known. There we go. Hit OK. And then I'll do the same thing for the next pair of reads. Okay, so now I have all of those entered and it looks good. Sometimes I go back and check to make sure I copied and pasted correctly. So CFQ, VDT, DGQ, IUJ, and that looks good. Okay, so our input is now in. I'm going to hit save just for the heck of it. Okay, so then we have to put in our controls. So there's a couple of ways to get to these. The first is each one of these, you can actually click on it and you can go to this controlled by link, and then you can get the URIs from this download button. So you can do that individually. There is a more of a one-shot way here. So if we go to controls, here's a number that this now has file details on all four controls for all four of those reads. So I'm going to grab it straight from here. So I'm going to grab this link address and do the same thing I did just for the input data. So you need to clear that one out, put in the new one. System doesn't know about it yet, so I will be good and at least put in a documentation link. Hit OK, and I'm going to do the same for the other three controls. Okay, now I have all of these entered here, and these controls are actually used in quite a few experiments. Looks like 36 of them. So if you were to go and reanalyze something else that uses the same set of controls, you could just fork that experiment and you wouldn't have to go through that again. But now that I have inputs in there, reference genome, happy with, just some metadata. So pipeline parameters, there's not much you're going to want to play with here. Once again, if you want to know what any of these are, you can hover over. This one If you don't want to do transcription factor ChIP, you might be doing histone or something like that. You can change that there, but that's about it. The rest, I'm just going to leave as they are. And if I wanted to, I could take a look to make sure this input.json is looking correct. I could save it for later. If I wanted someone else to take a look at it, I could share it with them or something like that. See if they think it looks good before I hit run. But when you are ready to run, you just hit run it, and away it goes. You can get a link right away to the job detail. You can see it submitted. As soon as the back end picks that up, that'll change to running. You'll get an email when the job starts, and you'll get an email when the job finishes. And then, looks like I just got the email. And kind of as it goes, this metadata about the run will start filling up. You can watch that, but this is going to take quite a bit of time. So I suggest you go get some coffee, go take a break, go do some other research, launch another job, come on back, and we'll see what it looks like when we're all done. Okay, so once the job is picked up, you'll see the status change from submitted to running, and you'll get this wheel spinning here. And you can actually follow the what's happening with this metadata.json file, which is printed below here. The other thing you can do is you can open the outputs folder. So this is outputting data to a Google bucket. And if you click on that, you can start to see the outputs being gathered here. They're not complete yet because it's still running. And when it's done too, you're also given this command here if you want to copy that output bucket to your local system. So you can just copy that command, paste it into your terminal, and if you have gsutil installed, you can copy that right on over. Okay, so I got an email saying that my job was done. So I closed the window out last time, which is perfectly fine to do. So if I go back to Truwl.com, it remembers that I'm logged in here, and I can just go to my jobs. And you can see I was playing around with some other stuff and aborted some other things, which is perfectly fine to do. And it's telling me this job was successful, so that's good. So you go here. This is the screen you would see if you had just left the window open. And now it is interesting to look at this output folders. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here, and that would probably take another video to go through. But something we should look at here is looking at the QC report. So if we click into there, we've got a few folders. I always forget which one it is. Let's try this one. This one's got a qc.json. So I'm actually going to try the other one because I want it in HTML format. So I can go back here and click on the other folder. And this one has my qc.html. So I can download that just by clicking on it like so. And there it is. So this is the report that's promised to you in the GitHub repository. And scroll through and take a look. And we'll start maybe making a video about all the other outputs. Okay, I just wanted to cover a couple more things before we finish up. This menu right here gives you the ability to download your inputs.json file or the metadata.json file, or you can resubmit the job if you want to do that for some reason. And this menu is active even before you hit run. So if you wanted to just use this as a inputs.json builder, you could use the interface to do that and then just grab it and run it somewhere else. But what I think I'm going to do in this case is I want to share this with the wider world, either to get feedback, see if I'm doing it right, or I just want to make it available for someone else to fork and run a similar analysis really easily. So I can do that from the My Work page. So I can find this particular run. or this instance. And instead of clicking on it, there's a publish button here. So if I hit publish, I can also go through and you can decide what files to make to publish. And that's not going to make your files public or anything like that if they're protected. But what it will do is make a metadata page. So when someone looks at your analysis, they can at least get the documentation links to that file if there are some. Um, and then with that inputs file and that particular job, you may have multiple jobs associated with a single workflow instance. So we just have one on this. So I'm going to share information about that particular run of that thing. So I can click that box and then I hit publish and it is now public. So people can find it simply from a Google search. It shows up in your public profile like so. So here it is, profile. Here's my profile. And if someone was interested in seeing what kinds of things I was doing lately, they could go in and look through these lists of what I made public and see if they want to evaluate it or repeat it. They can do it straight from there. And that's it for this time. We'll see you next time.